All right, YouTube. Let's see. Are we working now? I do apologize for that. This is our third attempt at trying to go live, so you would think that I had figured this stuff out by now, but I lesson learned to not sort of switch up your usual routine of how to go live, especially on a really important pre-scheduled live stream where a lot of people are expecting to be here live. So I do apologize for the inconvenience. I hope many of you guys are able to join us. Before we get started, I'm going to make sure that this is all showing up though. So I'm going to have my pros who are here with me make sure that it's showing up. I see it. It does say Sync Edge, which is the wrong thing, but the title at least is correct, which it says live reviews. So anyways, this is a little bit of a hatchet job, but regardless, we are here. And so we're going to go through these reviews and kind of see what's going on with these tracks. So let me go ahead and just wait. Yeah, it looks like we got 16 of you guys here. So thank you guys. Let us know in the chat box. Can you hear us? Can you see us? And again, my sincerest apologies for the inconvenience. Hopefully most of you guys can find us on this new one. We'll try to do our best here moving forward. So great, we're live, you can hear us. Okay, I think we can move forward. So I'm gonna do a quick little spiel on what's going on today, why we're going live, why I have the other pros with me for this cool live broadcast. It's really exciting. I've never done this before, so I hope this goes well. I mean, I hope it goes well from now on, moving forward, starting now, so that maybe we can do this on a monthly basis or maybe every couple months, something like that. But regardless, this is gonna be a really cool thing for most of you guys to see professional sync licensing producers and library owners actually check out and review music live, so you guys can see what we think, what makes a track licensable or not. And today is also really, really important because it is the launch of Pro Feedback, at least publicly. We've actually had this service available for our members for a couple of months, and the reviews and the testimonials have been amazing. Members are seeing significant improvements in their track, and so I want you guys to consider maybe joining us starting today. And the reason why I think it's important for you to think about joining today is because the first 100 members are actually going to be granted a 30% discount on your monthly membership fees, okay? So it's usually going to be $49.99 a month for this service where you're getting consistent monthly feedback on your music. Essentially, you have a potential to get up to 3 tracks reviewed per month, and I'll explain how that works. But it's usually $49.99 a month, which I still think is a really very cheap steal price. But if you join today and you're one of the first 100 members to sign up today, you'll actually get a 30% discount on your monthly dues, and you would actually only be paying $34.99 a month. So you're getting a huge, huge discount, and that discount can actually get locked in for as long as you want to keep your membership. There is a 30-day money-back guarantee. You can cancel anytime, okay? If you give us a shot, get some feedback, it's not helpful feedback, it's not pushing you feel in the right direction, just email me, we cancel you, we refund you, okay? I don't want anybody's business unless you feel that this is really, really helping you and making a significant change for the positive for your sync licensing career, okay? And if you guys want to follow along with the website that I'm at, there is a link in the description box below, so you guys feel free to join and follow along if you'd like to. So real quick, this is where a lot of producers are, this poor unfortunate soul on the left. A lot of sync licensing producers, I hear this, I feel this from a lot of you guys, that no matter what you do, you're getting stuck in a circle. You're watching tutorials, you're really cranking out music, you're really focusing, you're really hustling, but as the months and maybe sometimes years go on, it doesn't matter what you're doing with your career and what your music, you feel like you're not making a lot of progress or none at all, and you're not getting accepted by libraries, you're not even maybe even getting responses by them, and maybe you're getting ghosted by them. So it really sucks. I mean, this is just a really crappy position to be in, especially after a long time in this business. And I think a lot of you guys might be literally in this because you don't have something like what this awesome, cool rock star guy on the right has, which is a feedback process, a feedback system, right? So with Pro Feedback, with this thing that's now available, every month you get to log in, come into our awesome community, submit a track, and get some helpful feedback from not just, you know, anybody or somebody who, you know, is also trying to do sync licensing, but somebody who has credits, somebody who's actually been in this business probably longer than you have, and somebody who really has understand and figured out the sort of seemingly mysterious puzzle of how to create production music that's licensable. That's what our pros all understand. They're all well accomplished, and they're all great teachers. They're really awesome, positive people that will be, you know, positive with you and gentle with you how they talk to you, but they will be honest. They will tell you what you need to change to make your tracks more licensable. So if that sounds like something that could be helpful, you might want to keep paying attention and maybe join us. So when you have a feedback system, essentially each one of these dots kind of represents a month, you get to check in and submit a track and go, okay, well, my pro said I need to focus on my drums and on my quantizing of those drums. Okay, so that's what I'm going to think about and focus on for the next week or two, or maybe a month. And then next month, I want to submit maybe the same track revised, maybe a brand new track, and I want to get some helpful updated notes on that. And so you basically get to have a check-in process to really know for sure, am I going in the right direction or not? You know, all that anxiety and uncertainty of whether or not you're actually working and going towards the right direction, that can be solved and eliminated with pro feedback. We can give you that certainty, we can give you that focus, and we can give you that confidence so that you know, okay, I'm doing the right thing. You know, I know for myself, for sure, the times that I've tried to go to the gym and not really have a workout program, I sort of just flounder around. I just kind of go from, you know, machine to machine and weight to weight. And I don't know, I don't really make much progress. I feel good that I'm going to the gym, but I don't have this sort of feeling like, okay, am I doing the right stuff? Am I actually doing something productive? When I follow a program, a system, or even a trainer, the confidence is the biggest thing that makes a difference, because then you know for sure that you're either, you know what you need to work on, what you need to focus on, and you also just have this clarity of like, I know where I need to go, I know where I am, and I know where the future is going to take me. So that's really what pro feedback can do for you, okay? Big changer, big game changer for a lot of our members. The membership benefits, if you guys do decide to join us, of course, every month you get your one track reviewed from the pro of your choice. You get to shop through these guys. They're actually here with me live, and I'll bring them on the video screen here in just a little bit so you can see them. And you get to decide who you want to work with. You can work with the same one every month. Every month you can switch. You can say, yeah, I tried Hans this month. Next month I want to try Trevor. And I got Trevor's feedback. That was really helpful, but I want to see what Philip can do for me. So you literally get to shop, essentially. It's basically like a farmer's market. You get to go through and shop and decide who you want to work with on a month-by-month basis, okay? And then I will review your music through our live review sessions. These are 1-hour sessions that are held through Zoom. Last month review session, I actually got to review everybody's track that's submitted. So I don't think that'll happen every single month, but certainly that's a good sign that you have a really good shot at getting your tracks reviewed. And I do make sure that not everybody gets the same review every single month. So I do have a system to ensure, like, if you got a review last month, I will put somebody that hasn't gotten a review at the top of the list. So I want to make sure that's fair and most people can get and count on some feedback from me, at least on an every month or every other month sort of a basis, okay? And you do have the potential to get your tracks potentially placed with our pros, okay? Now, I don't want you guys to come in here and start pitching your tracks to them and spamming them and throwing them all your music. But if you submit a track to one of our, let's say, library owners, and they think, I think that track would really work well in my company, I think I can get it placed, they are more than willing to reach out to you and license you and send you a contract and get you signed up with their company. So there is a potential to get your tracks placed out there. But again, I don't want you guys thinking that this is a shopping service. This is not what it is. It is primarily for feedback, but this is sort of an added benefit for you guys that join. And of course, you get to see you get to be a part of our exclusive platform, and you get to see exclusive video content, which means you get to watch not only, of course, your own reviews, you get to watch everybody's review on the platform. Only those that are on the platform will be able to see this. So imagine yourself being able to watch hundreds and hundreds of hours of professionals like myself and these guys I'm going to bring on board reviewing sync licensing tracks. So not only do you learn from your own mistakes and successes, but you get to learn from everybody. So you get to basically compound the amount of knowledge and feedback and expertise that we have to offer you guys here in this platform through the video format and the video content. And of course, we're going to do these video bonus video review opportunities. So what you're watching right now is one of those bonus review opportunities where members are able to submit a track every single month, and I will randomly select a few of them, and we as a collective, all of the pros and myself, will actually review them together. So you get to actually see this really cool sort of gathering of the minds and reviewing some music. So it's really fun. It's a really cool thing. All these kind of questions, if you guys have any of these questions on your mind, is your track loud enough? Is it licensable? Are your tracks structured properly? Are they too long? Are they too short? Is the mix too muddy? All these questions and uncertainty of whether or not your tracks could be placed and accepted by libraries, all of those can be answered very, very shortly, okay? So that's what's really cool about this. These are the frequently asked questions. I won't go through all these. You guys can obviously click on that link in the description box below if you want to learn more about this. And these should answer most of your guys' questions. And these are the pros. So the guys I'm going to bring on board, I think Mike is the only one today that is not going to be able to join us. He wasn't available, but he was with us for some of those previous videos I released on my YouTube channel. So you can obviously go check out more of what he does there. And this month, I will be releasing interviews with each one of these on my YouTube channel. So you'll actually get to know each one of them a little bit more in depth if you don't know them yet, if you haven't seen them on any of my previous videos yet. But you get to see what kind of placements they've received. You get to watch a video about who they are. And inside the platform, you'll be able to check out their personal websites, their music. You actually get to really know these guys and decide, all right, you seem like somebody legit or somebody that I feel a lot of connection to. I really want you to review my music. So you guys get to make that choice every single month. And this is the guidelines, or this is the sort of format that we use. It's called the simple feedback process. We will give you notes on each one of these every time we do a review. We'll talk to you about your structure, which is one of the biggest ones most of you guys have questions and confusion about. Are your instruments high quality? The mixing and mastering of your track, is that up to par? The production quality, the licensability, where can it be licensed? Is this ready to be accepted by a library? Do we think that you should pitch it to a library yet? So if you have that kind of a question, we can answer that for you. And is the emotion mood focused and in one place? And is it appropriate for TV film licensing? So these are the things that will separate a track from licensable track from unlicensable track. And I have basically handpicked these pros that you see up here. And I trained them, and I told them exactly how we should be giving feedback. I didn't tell them what they should be giving, what notes they should specifically give. I want them to give their individual opinionated notes on that. But I do give them this sort of rough guideline and structure to follow to make sure that you guys know what kind of feedback you're going to be getting. And yes, you will be getting your feedback in HD video format, and it's basically at least 10 minutes long. So you get a nice long video going through the sort of the weeds of your track, going in and out of all the nuts and bolts of it, and figuring out what's going to work with it and what needs to be improved. And this is going to be on our awesome Pro Feedback platform, which is available for iOS and Android devices. You can log in on your computer if you want. You can log in on your phone. So it's a really awesome, easy to use, easy to navigate platform there. If you go to that link in the description box below, as I said, you can actually watch some of the sample reviews that we put together. I put this little compilation together showing you guys the style and the type of feedback we give. Of course, you're going to get to watch that here in just a few minutes, but you can watch a little bit more there. And like I said, we've launched this a few months ago, and these are the testimonials and feedback that we're getting from our members. It's changing their careers. It's changing their productivity. It's changing their trajectory in this business. This video I actually released on my YouTube channel a few days ago, has some video testimonials of our members, so definitely feel free to watch that. It's really, really awesome to see these guys just talking about how this has really made a huge difference in their career. So I'm really excited about the fact that this is working. And this is actually one of the polls that we just put out on our platform. As you can see, I was asking them, have you noticed any significant improvement in your producing, mixing, or mastering skills since you've joined the platform? Vast majority of them are saying absolutely, that I've seen a massive significant improvement. And this is after just a few months of being in this platform. This isn't after a year. This is after literally a couple of review sessions. They're finding out, they're like, wow. And I actually had a member just tell me that the other day. He said, Sync Academy is really helpful. Sync Edge obviously has worked, but it wasn't until Pro Feedback that a lot of the stuff started clicking. And I think what it is he's talking about is you watch us give feedback about all the stuff you've been learning, in Sync Academy, or that about production music, and you see us sort of, following those guidelines, following that teaching instruction that we have, but really applying it to real music and real tracks. And so when that sort of new element of education gets brought on board, a lot of these sort of maybe mysteries or these things that you're not exactly sure about start clicking, and you start having those moments of like, oh, I get it. I see what they talk about. So that's what's really happening with a lot of these members. As I said before, we do have a 30% discount for the first 100 members that decide to join us today. And these spots will be gone within a few days. So trust me on that. You don't have till the end of the week, essentially, to make this decision. These will be gone very, very soon. I know that. Now, we do have actually a couple of people that have already signed up this morning. So we actually only have 97 spots. So you guys are definitely losing the more that you wait here. But just make sure that you do sign up to be one of those first 100 members, at least to grab this discounted rate. As I said before, you can cancel anytime. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee. There's literally nothing to lose. But if you miss out on those first 100 spots, that's it. The price is going back up to $49.99 a month. So right now, $34.99, you get to save $15 a month if you sign up, okay? We do have a PayPal option if you prefer to do that, or you can just use your major credit card, whatever credit card you got going on there. So that's what I got for you guys. I really want to appreciate you guys for being here. I see you guys in the chat. I really appreciate everyone taking their time to check us out today. And now that we're actually live, what I'm going to do now is go ahead and bring in our pros. So, all right, guys, put on your makeup real quick. Here we go. All right, and I'm going to take myself out because you don't need me twice. There we are. All right, so you can see all 6 of us there on camera. I'm really glad you guys decided to join me. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. You guys have been very patient here, waiting for over half an hour for us to get started on this reviews. So why don't we go ahead and jump into the first track. This is actually one by Sean Sevo or Sevo. I'm not sure how you pronounce your last name, but it's a rock hip hop track. Trevor, I'm probably going to come to you first because I know you've done a lot of this kind of stuff with your company and your music library. So let's go ahead and take a listen to it. And everybody in the chat box and you guys in the pros, please let me know if anything is funky with the audio, if you're not hearing it, if it's not stereo. Because as you said, we had some kind of big issues before, and I want to make sure that we sort of straighten all those out now. Let's go ahead and take a listen to it, and we'll see how this works out. Here we go. And how this is going to work for everybody watching. We're going to listen to this entire track, start to finish, and at the end, we'll all come back, and we'll each give at least one note on it, and then we'll move on to the next track. So let's go. Let's see how this works.
Yo, dig deep for the knockout. We're going all out. Tell your body stand the tank out. Dig deep like right there. 'Cause when the game is, then we'll always be the comeback kids. Dig deep when your head's down and your heart pounds. Just never giving in to frown. Nobody, that's me. Standing here in your way. Delivering my sermon on this field I'm in. Truth is, life's rich and poor out here the same. The only currency is will, and I brought the bank. This is where I come to bury. The memories that still haunt me. I'm gonna pick up this hammer 'cause in this graveyard I'm gonna dig deep. When we stand tall and we give it all, then there'll never be the underdog. Dig deep when we're knocked down. Let's say stay down, and we'll be digging our way out. I dig deep with my whoop back, 'cause we gon' way back, and we're gonna dig deep for the comeback. We're on our way back up, and we're saying dig deep. Smell your beer from here. Let me get mine. Umbrella up and shield me from the rain. Pouring from your eyes when I make you quit. I say, this is my time. I'm nobody, but after tonight, you realize in the graveyard you play. This is where I come to bury. The memories that still haunt me. I'm gonna pick up this hammer 'cause in this graveyard I'm gonna dig deep. When we stand tall and we give it all, then there'll never be the underdog. Dig deep when we're knocked down. Let's say stay down, and we'll be digging our way out. I dig deep with my whoop back, 'cause we gon' way back, and we're gonna dig deep for the comeback. We're on our way back up, and we're saying dig deep. When we stand tall and we give it all, then there'll never be the underdog. Dig deep for the knockout. We're going all out. Tell your body stand the 10 count. Dig deep like right there. 'Cause when the game is, then we'll always be the comeback kid. Dig deep when your head's down and your heart pounds. Just never giving in to the ground.
All right, Sean, dope track, man. It definitely put me into the Beastie Boys old school feel. Definitely at least part of that. That second verse really took me back there. This is a really interesting track. I mean, you kind of have a couple of elements of modern hip hop and rock, but like I said, there's this kind of throwback appeal to it as well. Very catchy, of course. So there's a lot of things we're going to talk about in this track, but I think overall, as you saw, somebody noticed, like we're all nodding our heads because you're moving us, man. You're definitely getting us pumped up, and you're definitely moving us in the right emotional direction. So that's great. There's definitely a few things that I've noticed we could probably improve upon. I think all the pros would be able to. So Trevor, why don't we start with you, man? What did you think? What was your first impression of this?
Yeah, it's funny. Last night I was literally mixing an album of this that we're putting out very soon, and so this is already kind of top of mind. All right. So there's a few things I'll kind of just do negative, positive, kind of sprinkled in together. So the first thing is the verses with the kind of like Run DMC rap style. It's a little too dated and a little too slow. Like the modern type of rappers who do this kind of like sports stuff, they really play around rhythmically. And these verses were very on the point, like Run DMC, right? Like they do that, back then, but that isn't really, isn't big now. You can do it in moments and stuff, which is fine. But the whole thing, instead of having, different rhythmic, patterns and stuff throughout your verses. So that was like the main thing I noticed once we got into it. It was like I wasn't really moving apart from just feeling kind of stompy. That during the chorus, though, is actually the reverse. Like you don't because this is basically a sports track. Like everything about it, right? Dig deep, all that is very football. It the chorus actually can be that way because you can have that straightforward. We dig deep, da 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 da. We dig deep, like that straightforward, not too complex is actually really good for that because then they put the complex visuals on top of that, and then you get the like highlight real stuff going on, a bunch of things moving around, but the vocals kind of keep you in this kind of state of like it's not too messy now because this big chorus about digging deep is straightforward and to the point, which was really great. Um, I think the drums should have been more stompy. I think your kick mainly was just kind of a thud, just kind of a normal everyday kick thud. I would make it thud a little bit harder and then throw a stomp on it, like all these stomp rock kind of tracks have nowadays. It makes it feel more stadium and anthemic. Anthemic, is that the right word? Yeah. Anyway, and then let's see. There were a few times where the rhymes like or the lines didn't rhyme, or they kind of it felt like you were kind of squeezing in a pre-written sentence to a pattern that didn't fit, and so it kind of got a little uncomfortable. That's just kind of you got to adjust your words for your rhythm instead of trying to adjust the rhythm for your words, because you end up just kind of squeezing words that don't fit in there. And I noticed that a couple times in there. Your ending should have been a sting ending. You just kind of end, and then you have that wah kind of guitar just echo out. Do a sting ending, you have the kick hit, have that guitar hit, have all the things hit, explosion or something, so that you get an impactful ending as opposed to just kind of like, and the song's done, 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 and then but to end on like a positive though, the guitars and everything stylistically about it was pretty on point, especially the track. That's why I think everybody was moving their head and stuff, is that stylistically, I have heard this type of track used in so many sports moments for stuff, highlight reels, promos, all that kind of stuff. So this is like 85% there. There's just those little adjustments I talked about before that I think would then turn this into like, an editor's dream for their, week of, football or soccer or baseball or whatever game's going on.
Yeah, that's what I heard too, man. I heard licensability all over this. I think a few adjustments. For me, I think Trevor really went into the weeds on that, and that's really cool, like all those details he gave you. But for me, it was also that this track felt kind of like what he said with that stomp. Like the track overall felt a little dark and a little dull to me. Like I feel like it could have been a little bit more brighter and a little bit more just sharper on the higher end. So for sure, there's some things that can be done on the mix. But Scott, how about you, man? What did you think? I saw you nodding along a little bit. Oh, we're muted, buddy.
Unmuted. Okay. First of all, yeah, like everybody else, I was bopping along with it too. It took me back to the old Limp Bizkit days of the early 2000s. That's what it made me think of. And I think because I was taking it from that approach, I was expecting the instruments to hit a little harder in a different way. I felt like the guitars could have been a little bit bigger. And like Trevor said, I love that idea of having that stomp clap kind of style with that. And it's a cool kind of blend if you have the rapping vocals with that stomp stadium rock, which is so big right now, like Trevor said. Definitely could see this being used. I would have liked to have heard the instruments breathe a little bit, maybe a little bit of a break between the verses, a little bridge or something where I can just have the rock out portion of the track. And then the other piece was I would have liked to have had a real bass. I heard the synth bass in there. The fuzzy synth bass. It would have been cool if you had a bigger kind of saturated real bass playing over that. I think that would have matched the style of drums and guitars that were already there. But again, I was kind of approaching it from that angle where it was like that Limp Bizkit 2000 kind of vibe, that rock vibe for sure. Definitely licensable, and I really enjoyed it.
Awesome, man. Yeah, really cool. Hans, how about you, man? What do you think about that one?
Great track. I mean, between Trevor and Scott, they hit pretty much all the points that I had as well. I really liked the beginning, and I felt the same way. It's really licensable. Felt the same way with the guitars. They could be bigger, and that's actually kind of like if the guitars are bigger and you brighten them up a little bit, that would take off the blanket, right? That was what you mentioned. That would make it just shine a little more. Ending was not happening for me. I think the sting ending is it there. I also thought like the bass, same thing that Scott said. So, I mean, most of the stuff is said. 85%, probably, maybe even a little more. It's there. It's a great track. Thanks for sharing, Sean. Really appreciate
Totally.
that.
Absolutely. How about you, Philip? What do you think, man?
Man, I thought it was cool. It kind of took me back to the old 311 days. You
And
know,
we're all
I
over the place. We got Limp Bizkit, Run
I
DMC,
know.
and 311.
have to go get out the retro rock hip hop playlist. I agree with everyone's notes so far. I think the kick pattern could have been a little more interesting in some places where it just kind of going doo, 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 or what it was. You know, some of this modern hip hop is a little bit more syncopated, and obviously that can go too far. But you know, just appropriate to what the individual track is. I kind of wanted to hear some more ear candy, just some effects, and just some little, you know, and transitions, and just little things to perk the listener up when you're in verse 2 and you're kind of going back to the same program, but then you want these little, you know, little ping pong effects and things like that that just keep the track interesting and moving along. And with the bass, you know, the fuzz bass versus the live bass, you know, a lot of times what I like to do in that situation is, you know, leave the fuzz bass in, but then play a live bass with the pick or something like that, and EQ it a little bit more up to the low mid area. Let the fuzz bass take the low end, let the pick live bass, so that way it just kind of punches through, and then you have the best of both worlds. But I liked it. I thought the track was really great.
Very cool, man. Awesome. Philip, you can turn up your mic just a little bit, buddy. You're just a little quieter than the rest of us. And Yele, for those of you guys that are in Pro Feedback, you guys maybe have noticed Yele been putting some really cool, helpful posts on the platform lately. So Yele is coming from all the way from the Netherlands. And he's been an amazing new pro to be available to all of us. I've been seeing his first actually review video, and he's just got a great way of communicating and helping you guys understand how to craft your tracks in a more licensable way. He's a really impressive producer. So Yele, what do you think about this, man? Anything? I know that usually when you're the last one to give notes, it's like we've all covered pretty much most of it, but anything that maybe we didn't get to that you could comment on?
Well, personally, I think it's a really good sounding track with a couple of maybe improvements here and there. I would say production-wise, what you can try with this track is put an equalizer on the mastering bus and just have a cutoff on around 20 hertz on the lower end. And I normally do this with my productions, and when I do this, it opens up the entire of the frequency spectrum, so it gives more room and it avoids basically this muddy feeling or sound that you're getting. So I think you can try that with this track, but overall I already think this sounded pretty amazing and also really licensable. And like Hans and Trevor said, the ending, just a sting, a hit. Most libraries I work with don't even accept tracks with that are fading out. Basically, I mean, when an editor edits your music in a TV program, they can create a fading. But having the option to just also end with a banger, like with this track, really increases your chances to being picked up by a TV editor. But overall, really good track. Yeah.
Great, absolutely. And you know, I think only one extra note maybe I could give. I pretty much agree with most of what these guys are saying. I think the vocals, I love that it was like you're repeating the vocals, you were repeating the hook. Definitely got caught and stuck in my head. I feel like though the vocals could be a little bit, it could have been the mixing where you just have a little bit more high-end presence to them, or maybe they just need to be a little bit louder. But when there's vocals, and especially when it needs to be just kind of like a thematic sort of a hook like this, they got to be really, really obvious and really audible and clear to hear. So sometimes it felt like, especially when the choruses would come in, the vocals were audible, but they were sometimes getting a little bit muddy, kind of a little bit buried by all the music down there. So just sometimes it can be just a high-end boost on the vocal tracks, a little EQ boost. Sometimes it needs to be a little bit of compression, a little bit of volume modulation. There are a couple of ways to do that. But just make sure if you guys are going to be throwing vocals in your track, they got to be extremely clear. You got to be able to hear them, and all the lyrics need to be enunciated very clearly so we understand. You don't want an audience member going, what are we supposed to do? Like, they don't know, right? So it's got to be very, very, very well enunciated. I think the enunciation on this track was actually pretty good, but definitely just always keep those things in mind, that it's really about production music, meaning it needs to be functional. It needs to actually sell a promo, sell a sport event, sell a product or whatever it is. And so those lyrics need to be like right when you hear them, you need to know exactly what's being said, and it needs to be very, very clear. So just make sure that those vocals are shining bright on top. So excellent work, Sean. We're glad that you submitted, man. We're going to move on to our next track here, which is from let me get the name here. This is from Kirkland Cole. Glad you submitted to us, man. This is kind of like you put other on the genre, but I think this is sort of like a hip hop, a little bit of EDM sort of take on it. So let's go ahead and take a listen to Kirkland's track here, and here we go. All right, Kirkland. I see what you're doing here, man. That was pretty cool. That was really interesting. I kind of was like conflicted on which direction I would actually want to push you in going, but I think what I like about this track is the energy, especially more towards the middle of the track, kind of your little breakdown around 55 seconds or so, or 50 seconds. That energy was like fire, like really, really intense, hyping me up. And I'm like, this is sports all over it. So there's definitely, I think that's the direction that I kind of would want to push you with this type of a track. But I think overall, the energy was really, really good on this. Like I felt good. It took me a while in the beginning to kind of really sort of be moved by it. But when that middle section came in, I was like, ooh, okay. Kirkland has now arrived. I feel like that you kind of really came to life a little bit more towards the middle of this track. So definitely a few things I can see improving, but I won't sort of kick off the notes this time. But let's go ahead and start with, let's go with Yele, actually. You were the last time, so we'll give you the first one so you can steal all of our notes, so we'll have nothing to talk about.
Thank
so go
you.
Ahead, Yele.
Well, thank you. Well, I won't steal probably all your notes because this genre for me is pretty new. But But like you said, the second half of this track really kept things going and kept me at the front, at the edge of my seat, basically. So what I would suggest, I mean, when a TV editor or producer is searching in the databases of a music library, basically what they do is they just press start, listen for 12 seconds, and then move on if they don't like it. With this one, I didn't really feel the first half of this track. I really liked the second half. So I would suggest make the entire track in the style of the second half of this track, and then I think you to get through this TV producer. Also, production-wise, I had the feeling, but that could also be possible because it's a SoundCloud stream, that a lot of frequencies were clashing with each other. So especially in the high end with the synthesizer and the cymbals, there was a little bit too much going on. Like I said, it could well be the SoundCloud stream and the compression from YouTube or from Zoom, where we are using right now. But yeah, maybe look into that in the frequencies a little bit. So for the rest, I really think that the second part of this track is licensable. It's also really well done. But yeah, those are my points, basically.
Excellent, man. Appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of part where we're all going to agree is that second half finally sort of showed up, and there's a few things we can change about it, but I think we're all probably going to agree with that one. Philip, let me go to you next, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was cool, man. There was moments, and probably right in that area where we're all talking about that, where it was like, oh, okay, I feel you now. And I had a note here that needs a little bit more of that lip curl, stank face attitude, because it kind of came out a little bit, but I think we wanted just a little bit more of that, just like,
You got to make a plug-in with that as a setting, man. Lip
Yeah,
curled
stank
stank
face.
face on. Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
and the first 30 seconds or so, whatever the white noise pad was, I felt like was kind of overtaking the coolness of all the other things that were going on. That kind of was kind of just lingering in the background, and it kind of reminded. There's a famous quote from, I think it's an author or something, that says a work of art is not finished when there's nothing left to add but nothing left to take away. And I feel like in a situation like this, like maybe all the parts are there, it's just, get more with subtraction and just look at some things that may not be contributing and try to back off some things and see if it lets the cool parts poke out, and where the melody is taking the spotlight here, this melody is taking the spotlight here, and there's just not a lot of clutter going on.
Totally, man. Scott, let's go to you next, buddy.
Okay, so the first thing, I'm not really certain, but it sounded like the sub line, the 808 line, I don't know if it was in the same key as the chord progression. I wasn't 100%. It's also such a low frequency that I wasn't really able to decipher that, but I felt like it wasn't necessarily the same key. But that being said, like the lead was fun. I liked that kind of synth lead that was played there. It was really cool and lively, lots of energy. I also the vocal, I wrote here the vocal line, like that vocal effects that was I think it was in the third section. It was like almost like a synth vocoder effect on the line. That was really cool and fun and lively for sure. I could hear this played in a video game. Like I could picture, this would be like a great app, Jetpack Joyride or something, and like this would be in the background kind of thing, like that 8-bit chiptune kind of style. But it is also, I think, like really busy, and definitely look at the higher frequencies to see what is clashing, and if you can kind of free up some space up in that range. I think that was, and we touched upon that already, and then there was one thing that stood out, and it was I think it was the second section. It sounded like a banging effect every bar, and it sounded like a piano, like it sounded like a bang on a piano or something. I didn't quite know what it was. And so I guess that's a good sign in of itself, that if I don't know what it is, in likelihood, it's not really doing any justice or helping to serve the track. So that might be something, to review the ear candy pieces that are in there, the percussive pieces, and seeing if they're going to help the track or if they're kind of distracting. So that would be something I would definitely recommend.
Totally, man. I have a couple of thoughts on what you said. I'll wait till the end, though. Hans, how about you, man? Anything that we didn't cover yet?
Not really. I mean, you said everything pretty much. I really liked it reminded me of a London guy called Square Pusher, kind of that jungle beat. But I had the same thing with the bass. I wasn't sure. I really liked that it has, all these jazz chords and 4-note chords on top. That's really smooth. But if I have that, I really want to hear the bass more in tune with it and just to support it. And I wasn't sure how it, that was not really happening for me. And the same thing, second half was great. It started, I got it. The third end, like the end, I didn't quite like the vocals. I thought, like, if you do that with the vocals, bring it in earlier or introduce it. But at the time when it came in, I was like, oh, something more. So I would have loved to hear that introduced. But great track otherwise.
Awesome. And how about you, Trevor?
So I have a lot here because I got obsessed with this genre a while back, which is called future bass, and that's what this track is, I think, trying to be. It's trying to be the like future bass EDM kind of thing. The super saw chords throughout the track are kind of the key thing to that genre. So I have a bunch of notes because, like I said, I got obsessed with this genre, so I know like a lot of the specifics. The first thing is one of you mentioned a plugin that would do the stank face thing, and it actually does exist, and it actually is really a big deal for this genre, and it's called the Sausage Fattener. And the entire point of that plugin, it's one knob, and the entire point of that plugin is to do that with
My
certain
kind of
sounds.
plugin. I like that.
And it's used on the super saw a lot that you use in this, as well as those brass stabs that you use in this track as well. You literally just throw sausage fattener on there, turn it up a little bit, and then the little character like kind of goes, you know, and then then your stuff sounds better. I don't know, it's pretty cool. But anyway,
Everything's been thought of before. That's depressing. Yeah.
but okay, so there's that. So the thing that everybody else noticed about the key is that your explosion sound that happens like every time on the one or whatever has a tone in it that's clashing with the key with the notes of the rest of the song. So it hits, but there's this ring out tone that clashes with the rest of the track, which makes it seem like something is playing off key, and that's what it is. And I don't know if it's hard to tell in SoundCloud, but it's either like a piano ring out or it's just some sort of tone in general. So there was that was a big kind of like, it's hard to hear throughout the whole song. Let's see. That build up moment where you're just kind of using like a dun, 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 dun kind of thing was really long. And it took a really long time to kind of build up to the next thing. Because it was like that cliche. There's a funny YouTube video of a long time ago where the song is just one long buildup and it never actually drops. That's kind of how it felt like in the middle there, is that it just keep going up and up and up. So yeah, okay. So let's see that ending. Oh, the ending breakdown. So at the end, you just kind of have this kind of almost breakdown kind of moment where everything is kind of leaving the track and then your track just ends. That needs to be in a different part of the song, and your ending needs to be a big moment, not this kind of like, all right, we're slowly kind of winding down and then we're just done. Like that actually is I would put that somewhere else, like in a bridge type of moment instead. I know we're going through like SoundCloud and stuff like that, but even with that being said, everything in your track needs to be fatter. And your synth sounded thin, those brass hits sounded thin. I mean, the vocals actually those little vocal chop things were cool, sounded good, but your drums everything that needed to just be thicker and fatter. Because this genre, if you go to a YouTube playlist of Future Bass, and everything is fat. And if all of your sounds are sounding too thin, you get into the trap of what I think you're in right now, which is chaos, which is everything is so thin, so I can fit it all in front of me. But if everything is fatter, you kind of don't have room for everything, and you want to do what I think another guy mentioned was things shine in their moments instead of everything happening all at once all the time. So it's like, oh, this saw thing is cool. Let's play these fat, awesome sounding chords. I'm gonna cut them out, throw this fat brass moment in here, and then cut them back in and not use the brass anymore. And you kind of, Future Bass does this kind of constantly throwing something really cool in your face and then pulling it away, and then putting it in your face and pulling it away. Whereas your track right now has all that cool stuff, but just all together jumbled up, which is hard to really listen to when you're trying to, enjoy all the different elements. Because that was my main positive about this track, is that you have tons of random cool stuff. It's just kind of all over the place and doesn't know where it needs to be in the song. And I think if you adjust your structure and just listen to some of the Future Bass, like the really popular Future Bass stuff on Spotify and stuff like that, and see how they structure everything. And I think you can kind of take your pieces and kind of arrange it how others do. And I think it would do a lot better arrangement wise and stuff. And yeah, that was it.
I think that's it. That is literally, you guys, I have nothing left. I want to do a big zoom out though, because you guys kind of all touched on this busyness of the track, and it's not just to pick on Kirkland here. This is a very common issue that we have with a lot of our members that submit music to us in Pro Feedback. All these guys will agree. And one thing that I think is so cool about Pro Feedback is we are going to relieve you of a lot of the extra work you're doing. That's what's kind of crazy about a lot of what you guys are doing, is you're actually working way too hard. And I know this because I used to be a producer that worked way too hard. I was the producer that threw way too much stuff on my track because I didn't feel like it was big enough. So I was literally working overtime, spending way too much on each track because it just wasn't getting to be as big as I wanted it to be. So like Trevor said, if you're using the right elements mixed properly with the right thickness and fatness and saturation, you don't have to have as much stuff going on in your track, but it still will have a groove. It'll still feel good. There can still be an emotion, a dynamic, and it can feel really full and satisfactory. So we're going to try, when you guys join us, to relieve you of a lot of the extra weight that you're pulling in your production process. So you can literally clear out a lot of that clutter and that uncertainty, and move forward and actually just create licensable music in a much quicker way. So that's what we really hope you guys do with Pro Feedback, which, by the way, if you guys are just joining us, the link to sign up is actually in the description box. And if you are the first 100 members to join either today or tomorrow, I think they'll be gone by then, you can secure a 30% discount on your monthly fees. That will never be available again. So once those 100 spots are gone, that offer is gone forever. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our third track here. This is Brandon's track. This is an orchestral trailer track, and we will go ahead and get started. Let's see, Hans, I'll probably go to you first on this one because I know you do a lot of orchestral work. So let's go ahead and get started and see what this one's all about. All right, Brandon, bringing in some dark, heavy tension this morning. So that sort of fits the world today, I feel, right? That feels like about the soundtrack for every news channel that's going on right now. So I think you nailed the room, man. You took the right temperature. So well done on that, man. Really cool, really intense. I like that it's building. A lot of good stuff going on here. Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that I loved about this was the quality of your instruments. I know a lot of people do try to take a stab at orchestral and trailer music, but a lot of the instruments that you hear sometimes are like, that sounds like it came from like a Casio keyboard, and those horns feel weird, and but I think you've invested properly in the sounds and the libraries that you're working with. So definitely a few things we can probably talk about to enhance and improve this track. But I think overall a solid shot at licensable music. But we definitely can give you a couple of pointers, I think, to get you even closer to licensability. So Hans, let's go ahead and start with you, buddy. What do you think?
Yeah, Brendan, I think it's a great track, a good, very good composition. Instruments sound alive and good. What could bring that track to the next level is actually when you compress it correctly. I think what you did here is you kind of, you have that distorted bass in there. That's kind of the hybrid thing that goes with it, but it makes the track actually in some ways smaller if you compress it that hard. I really liked the transitions, but I feel especially from the second stanza to the third one, it almost feels like an ending. It kind of ends it could be longer, but it should have some kind of a something going through, like a breath or something that is still there, and it could be probably about a half a bar or even a bar longer before you go to your last stanza there. I really like the intro. Great setting the mood. Your percussion that comes in slowly and kind of builds up is very, very good. And I like the little thing on the end, kind of the typical trailer thing is really good. Another thing that I noticed was, like, when you look at your stereo field, think about it like it is an upside down triangle. Like, start in the bass, keep it mono as long as you can, and then start spreading it out. And I felt like that there was much going on in the bass that was it's too stereo for me in that regard. Let me see what else. I really like the horn melody. I mean, your writing is really good. I really think you nailed some of the parts there, and the strings, fast strings, is always hard to do and to make them convincingly, and you did it. So it's really, really good. You're on a track, on a good way. And then I think you had your output was like at minus 2.5 dB. Which I'd rather see that output, somewhere around minus 0.5, minus 0.2. You could go even further, but then have a little more room and let it breathe a little more. That was pretty much it, but great track, Brandon. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, and for sure, track was a little bit on the quiet side. That was one of the biggest things that I just had an issue with right when we started listening to it. I had to actually turn up my speakers to hear it a little bit better. So certainly we can get a little more aggressive on our volume there for the whole. So why don't we go with Jelle? You also do a lot of orchestral stuff. What did you think about this one?
Yeah, like Hans said, I mean, it's very well composed. The melody lines, I mean, you really have a very unique style. You really found your own voice, basically. What I would suggest is that on the ending, but also even on the more quieter parts, are adding a little bit of bigger impacts, like trailer impacts. Especially in the second, or in the final part, in the third part of your track, you can really add some crazy trailer impacts. And there is a simple way of doing this. There is this plugin from Keep Forest Warzone, it's called. Devastated Warzone. I will share the link in the YouTube chat, which is a free library, and you can already create some really big impacts on this track. You can really add it to. I don't know if it was your intention to make a trailer track with this one, but when you submit your tracks to libraries and they accept it, they will always ask you for alternate versions. So no drums, so no impacts, and you can give them basically the option to give the track like it is right now, or you give them the option with the trailer impacts. So you give them more of a choice, basically. So yeah, this is what I had, basically.
Killer. Yeah, I like that. Absolutely, man. Trevor, why don't we go to you next? What did you think about this one?
They've said basically all of the compliments that I had of, like, the fast strings are hard to do. I constantly hear fast strings just sound really MIDI. Overall, for like the vast majority of this track, I didn't have anything negative to say. Everything sounded really cool. I did want to point out something that trailer tracks are the exception to the whole 12-second rule or 10-second rule or whatever. Mine is more like a 5-second rule, where they'll listen for like 5 seconds, and if they're not feeling it, they'll just switch songs. That's not necessarily true for trailer tracks, because they're looking for something to build. So what they'll usually do is they'll look at the WAV file and then just click on the 3 different moments or the 4 different moments and listen to them. So having slow builds in trailers is fine, especially because movie trailers all have slow builds. They're not going to listen to the first little bit of the build and then be like, nope, it's not epic enough. Like they know, they're not stupid. So that I wanted to point out. But the only kind of thing I had issue is that the guitar tone, it felt just a little bit like it was kind of everything else fit, but then that guitar, that kind of like that's in like the second half of the song, it it felt like it didn't work, but that it just needed to be adjusted a little bit to kind of blend in with everything else. And I think really it's just the tone. It's just kind of playing with some of the distortion settings or some of the, like maybe make it a little more clean or less clean, or however, you have your guitar amp stuff set up, adjusting those parameters a little bit to kind of let it blend into the rest of the track. Because right now it felt like it was just kind of on top and a little bit distracting, but not because it was like crazy messy or a bad melody or anything like that. It just tone wise just didn't sound like it fit properly, but everything else was great.
Cool, man. Philip, what do you think, dude?
Man, I echo everything that everybody has said so far. I think the writing was awesome. I think the moments were cool. I think that that with the compression issue that Hans was talking about, loosening that compressor up, I think is going to make those impacts hit harder. I think it's going to just give air to the room, that this orchestra is playing in, so to speak. And, my notes were that the toms and impacts could have been bigger, but I think they might just be overly compressed. And because there were some cool moments in there, I think the parts are there. It's just letting them do what you inserted them to do. But overall, man, I think this was a great track.
Very cool. And Scott, anything we missed there?
I mean, I feel like you've covered it all, but I do have a little anecdotal thing to add. So I'm at school right now as a teacher, and I had about 10 minutes at the end of my last class. I'm on my break now, don't worry. I was playing this track actually right before, because I wanted to just do a quick review. And as I was playing it, I had all these ears kind of perked up through the speakers, and some of my students were like, "Sir, is that the new Warzone you're playing on your computer?" And I said, no, this is just, I'm just listening to some music and just going to do some reviews. And so, I mean, if you can pass the critical 16-year-old teenage boy demographic, then you know that it's licensable, because they're the ones who are going to be listening to it the most. I said, actually, this is for, I explained a little bit what I'm doing. And they said, well, that's a great track. I could totally hear this in the lobby in Warzone, and they were really getting into it. So, I mean, to me, that's you just passed the test right there.
Totally, man. I love how you put that too. That's really cool. I think the only thing that I can add that maybe we didn't cover was there were a couple of sound effects that came in at the very end. These kind of whoosh, swishing things that really felt out of place for this style. It kind of felt like an EDM sound effect, and this is really more of an orchestral, traditional kind of a track. So I felt like those were just kind of strange, just thrown in at the end. And I really felt like your last chorus, apart from the whole track probably coming up in volume, I feel like that last chorus when it came in, I liked it. It's like, you had this little pause and boom, come in, but I really didn't feel the satisfaction of, we're here in this final act. I feel like you got to have a bigger crash, a bigger impact, maybe a little swell leading up to it. So really make sure that when and this is sort of a general idea and definitely something for trailer music, anytime you are bringing us up on this little tension ride, think of it like a roller coaster. You're like bringing us up. Imagine you're on a roller coaster and for 30 seconds straight, you're just click, 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 click. I mean, your heartbeat's racing. You're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And when you get to the top, it just goes, you're like, wait a minute, where did all this tension go? Like, we need to have some sort of huge drop, right? So it's the same thing. It's kind of like you think about the EDM world. It's always about the drop. Kind of the same thing in trailers. It's really about, it's just this ebb and flow, this yin and yang of tension, 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 release. And you really need to add a lot of emphasis to the starts of these final acts and these big choruses and these big releases. So definitely don't be shy with that kind of stuff. Make sure that when you go through that section and you hit play, you feel this amazing, just like increase in energy, just this massive explosion, because it needs to feel like a release. It needs to feel like we went somewhere with all that tension. It always, listening to as much music as I do, I think it's going to cause me brain damage, because I hear so much music that has so much tension and there's never like a satisfactory release. So it's like you're holding in a sneeze. And I think that's going to cause me brain problems for years, because I never get that like, that's what we were waiting for. So please stop giving me brain damage, and probably yourself, and give us those big crashes, those big impacts on these choruses. But that's pretty much it. Everything else was really, really well covered here with our pros. So last reminder, guys, pro feedback is of course available now. First 100 members get the 30% discount. We had a question in the chat. Does that 30% only apply for the first month, or is that continuous? It will stay in place. You will continuously get that 30% discount every single month for as long as you keep your subscription active, okay? And somebody else was asking, do you get your track reviewed by one pro or by all of us collectively? You can actually have both happen. So what you can guarantee happen is you'll get one pro to review your track every single month between you and them. You will always be getting that every single month as part of your membership. But we every month put this bonus review opportunity out there to the platform. Now, we can't guarantee everybody's going to get a review, but just like with my live reviews, I will not select the same members every single month. We'll spread it out. We'll choose different genres and we'll choose different members every single month. But yeah, you can definitely be one of the few members every month that gets kind of this sort of like, mastermind of group paying attention to your track. So essentially, every month you have the potential to get 3 reviews included in your membership. Not guaranteed 3, but for sure potentially get 3. As I said before, though, last month on our live reviews, I reviewed everybody's track that showed up. So that was a guarantee. If you just submitted a track and showed up, you got a review. So that can happen for sure. But for sure, no matter what happens with the live reviews or these bonus ones, you will always get your one review every single month. And you get to watch everybody's review as well that month and all the previous months. So a lot of content for you guys to sink your teeth into as a part of this program. The link is in the description box below if you'd like to snag one of those first 100 spots. All right, so let's go to our last track here from Masaki. And Masaki has what is this one? It's a rock track. So definitely right up my alley. I certainly got my start in sync licensing with rock music. Let's go ahead and take a listen to his song and see what it's all about. Masaki starting us off with some, or I guess finishing us off with some cool, straight ahead, just rockin' groove here. That I really like. This style of music is something that is always near and dear to me because I did a lot of this kind of stuff. Not only in the beginning of my career, but actually as I was sort of finishing up submitting music to a lot of libraries. It was actually one of the last big jobs I did. It was actually for a lot of different sports placement opportunities. And they wanted stuff like this. They wanted just straight up, kind of like Foo Fighters, just garage. I don't know if you call this garage rock, whatever you call this, right? It's sort of straight down the middle, just grooving, a lot of cool, intense energy to it. And it also could be, I guess, like biker rock in a way, right? You can kind of see this kind of like cruising down the highway or in a big rig, something like that. So it's got a lot of appeal for sync licensing for sure. This kind of music gets placed all the time in reality TV shows. And certainly there could be some sports opportunities for something like this. So Masaki, you're definitely going in a licensable direction, but I definitely hear a few things that can be improved upon. So I will, let me just give a couple of notes. I haven't gone first yet, so I will sort of spoil it for the rest of you guys. I won't give all my notes though, but I had a couple of just maybe some smaller things that might help a little bit. I actually think overall, this track probably could be a little faster. I actually was kind of getting a little bit stuck in the mud with it. I feel at the end of the track, you really sped it up, or not sped it up, but you had a lot of the intensity. I didn't really notice that, but the first 3/4 of the track, I was kind of just like, I want this to be faster. I want it to be 5 BPM or 6 BPM, a little bit faster, just to get the energy a little bit high. So sometimes these da-da, da-da, they were just a little slow. The energy just wasn't there. No matter what you do to produce it, what you try. I mean, sometimes you can mask a little bit of a slower tempo by having some faster percussion. So maybe that's one thing you can do, is throw in some 16th note shakers, something like that. But overall, this track started to feel a little slow and a little sluggish for me. So that might be a huge problem if you recorded your guitars live. Sometimes that's not available and not possible. But just one of the biggest things that I noticed. And I do think that it's definitely in your choruses. I'll kind of doubling down on that a little bit, is with the percussion. With your choruses, I feel like we could have had a little bit more of that stereo image, especially with some shakers and tambourines. I heard a tambourine kind of coming in the middle of one of the choruses, I think, but it didn't feel like it was really out there, and it was kind of a strange place to just suddenly throw it in there. So I've had this note with quite a few members' tracks where I tell them, when these choruses come in, it doesn't matter what genre you're doing, trailer, EDM, rock, hip hop, it doesn't matter. When your chorus comes in, I should feel like we're sort of, like I said before, the big release, the sort of release of the tension. But there should be sort of like, I think Hans kind of tapped into this a little bit, a release into the stereo image, right? So you kind of keep your verses a little bit more mono down the center. And when that chorus hits, it's like, boom, guitars really come out and pan harder left and right. Or you stack new guitars up and have them really, I go straight out all the way right, all the way left when I have my choruses with my guitars. And same thing with percussion. I want some shakers all the way to the left, maybe some tambourines all the way to the right, or whatever is going on in your track. Really take advantage of the fact that this chorus needs to be the big part of your track. And to make it big, you need to spread things out a little bit more. So I wasn't getting enough of that change from the choruses to the verses. So anyways, I will stop there. I have many more notes, but we'll see if you guys sort of cover what I do there before we sort of finish it up. Let's start with, let's go with Philip. I know you do a lot of rock, man. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, man, I thought it was cool. I thought the riff is cool. It kind of reminds me of this commercial that's on TV right now for the big and tall men's store called DXL. And every time I hear the riff play on the TV, it catches my attention, whether I'm in the kitchen or in the hallway or whatever. And so I thought the same thing when I heard this riff. It was very hooky and memorable. Now, when the band kicks in, I felt like the rhythm guitars overtook the melody, the riff. So all of a sudden, this cool riff that we have going is now buried underneath just some chugging rhythm guitars. I also thought that the guitar tone for the riff was a little bit dry. It could have used a little bit of reverb and maybe a little bit of slapback delay or something like that, just to give it a little bit of depth. And then I thought when the drums came in, they came in a little bit reserved for the vibe that the riff had set up. I felt like the actual part could be a little bit more. I think maybe came in on a closed hi-hat, and it would be more the rock, full-on open sloshing hi-hat, and then clamp it back down in the verse part. Overall, man, I thought it was pretty cool. The energy stayed up. The yes at the end, the big yeah, I felt like may not have been in the right spot because the drums were like yeah, and it just didn't feel like it. That would be more like a yeah, that kind of vibe. So, I felt like some minor fixes that this thing would be happening.
Totally, man. Yeah, those can definitely. I agree with you with those claps and the yas. They sort of accented a half tempo accent and an half tempo feel, but the track was not trying to be half tempo there at all. It was definitely going right ahead. So you're absolutely right about that. Scott, I wanted to actually ask you, what have we not mentioned so far yet?
I think I wasn't 100% sure, but it sounded like that guitar riff was a MIDI VST versus using a live guitar. And maybe it's because, like Phil said, that it was really dry. To me, it sounded like it was a MIDI VST. I think this is one of those things, like after I listened to the song, I realized like this compositionally, this song is great. Like it's got a lot of really great, like the chord progression. It's a very, very hooky hook. It's in my head still kind of deal, which obviously you want to be able to do. But I think that instrumentally, it needs a little more sophistication. Like the snare could have hit a little harder. The drums itself could have hit a little harder. And I just felt that, and I was there. And I do distinctly remember being at this stage in my production as well, where I had these great ideas and great compositionally, everything kind of came together. But the sound, I couldn't get my sound, to match what was in my head, kind of thing. And it's just one of those, those hurdles that you kind of jump through in this business. And when you're producing, eventually it catches up, and you kind of create that kind of parallel between what you have in your head and what it sounds like in terms of quality and production. So I feel like this is a really encouraging track to me, because that compositional stuff is hard to teach. It's the sound design you can easily replace with a good VST or a MIDI interface or something. But that compositional stuff, it takes a lot of practice. So I liked that track for that very reason. I felt encouraged by it. Is it licensable yet? Probably not because of the sound design, but certainly not because of the compositional stuff. I felt like that was really, really strong.
Yeah, man. I love that. You're absolutely right about that. Like we always dance this balance here too, us pros in the pro feedback services, that we're trying to give you guys feedback, we're trying to help you guys out, but at the end of the day, we're not here to tell you how to make your music and how to compose your music and what riffs to write. And so at the end of the day, we try to always encourage you guys to, I always say you're the CEO of your own creativity. So when somebody says, well, what kind of a transition should I use, or what kind of a guitar riff should I use, or what kind of a beat should I use? Like, I try to stay away from those kind of suggestions, because I'm like, well, I don't want to start composing your track for you, right? And in some ways, like, don't ask me to do your homework and to do your job, right? Your job is to produce your own music. So we can let you know what's working, what's not working, and maybe give you some ideas or suggestions to make it work. But you're absolutely right, Scott. Like, people need to discover their own creative voice, and they need to do that in their own way, in their own terms, and with their own DAW and their own plugins, whatever sounds, whatever process they're working. And these days you can make it work with almost just about everything. I mean, yes, there's going to be some not so great sounding guitar rigs out there and plugins, but it's very affordable these days to get something that sounds really licensable and really great. So definitely we want to keep always pushing you guys. And for those of you that are Pro Feedback members, just keep that in mind, that we're not here to tell you how to make music. We need you guys to obviously pick up that that rock. You need to obviously push that boulder up the hill yourself and figure out how you want to do that yourself. So we're just going to try to help guide you to make sure that you are at least pushing the rock in the right direction up the hill, and not seeing it fall all the way down or going in a circle so you don't make any progress. So hopefully that makes sense. Trevor, I know you've done definitely some rock in your career over the years. I wanted to see what you thought about this one.
Yeah, you touched on like my main points, but I did have a couple smaller ones. Like, well, this one actually isn't small, but the that main melody, the da-na-na-na-na-na thing, that I would like to have an alternate version of that at some point in the song, so that I'm not hearing that same thing over and over again. Even though the song does change a lot, that main melody, I would like to get kind of a B version, somewhere in the song, to kind of switch it up a little bit. This is a production, like a basic production thing, that your drums sounded good sonically, but production wise, you kept them MIDI sounding. And really that just means you got to go in there and, fluctuate the velocities a little bit, maybe adjust it, like kind of randomize the timing a little bit. I'm going to make it feel a little more human, because the drums sounded like a good drum sample library type thing. But like when you play in the best way to notice this is when you play like like three snares or like three toms, and it's the same tom or the same snare, it'll sound like you literally just copy and pasted an audio file three times, because it's the same velocity, it's the same actual audio file being triggered by the plugin. But if you're adjusting the velocity and the timing a little bit, most plugins now, like drum plugins, they actually have like 3 or 4 different audio recordings of the same sound. And if you adjust the velocity, it'll trigger different versions of that audio sound. so your fill doesn't sound so copy and paste. You know, it sounds more like, in reality, there's no way you are going to hit your snare exactly the same to create the exact same sound 3 times in a row. So that kind of stuff you don't realize, but you feel it. And so those things, I think, are like a going through the track, kind of adjusting that. You had this is just kind of nitpicky, but you had this white noise riser that kind of comes in randomly. And it wasn't a bad white noise riser, but it doesn't do a full fade in rise. It just kind of shows up mid rise and then finishes its rise. So like put a fader on it so that I don't all of a sudden hear a half volume white noise come in and then kind of go, have it fully kind of do its full ramp into the transition. And then the big thing that I was like, oh man, I hope nobody says this, so I can say it, is your stomps and your claps are at the end of the song and are possibly the most usable part of the song. Because in sports, the stomp, or the claps and the haze, because those parts you get used when they show crowds cheering for teams and players doing things with a crowd in the background, and you've got all these haze and the claps and that it's just a very small chunk of your track instead of being in different sections of your track. And if I'm and we're going to go back to that rule, if I'm a supervisor, there's such a tiny chance that I accidentally find that part in your song when I'm going through listening that it almost doesn't, it might as well not be there. So I think taking the haze and the claps and putting them in different parts in the song will get you more usage in the long run, because people will find that moment and be like, oh, I have a stadium scene. I need people yelling, hey, and in the music and stuff. So, yeah.
Excellent. No, totally, man. Yeah, lots of great stuff there for sure. I have a few more that I'm going to say. I'll wait till the end, then we'll see. Hans, did you have something that maybe we didn't cover yet, or we got what you said?
You guys pretty much covered everything, but like for me, I had the same thing with the tempo. I thought too, like if it would be just a little faster, it wouldn't lack the energy. So that was certainly one part. And I would, after the first, the tricky part when you write a great riff, and this is, I really think it's a great riff. And for me, it's like, because the note when it comes on the one doesn't fit, it just like, it fits the fourth time or something like that with the fourth chord, but not with the first chord. And it just threw me off in the beginning. And then I thought, but I got really used to it. And now it's stuck in my head. The trouble with a good riff is to let it go. That was for me like, if you, especially after your first break, when you come down, let that riff go, just throw it out, just have bass and drums going, and then, take me back at some point, because I really liked it. But it's tricky. It's when you have a strong riff and that dominates your composition. It's really hard to. You have to achieve that by basically taking out things, and it's not much. There are not many instruments to take out. So I hear Trevor's point totally with the haze and the claps. I thought that in terms of the sound, I thought that the sound of the tambourine does not fit the song. That sounded more like a sleigh bell to me in some ways, too Christmassy. So you want to have a really rock tambourine that cuts through and have that dominant. But other than this, it's great that that I'm last, so everybody said already everything. It's wonderful, or
totally,
close
man.
to that.
I love that addition, though. Yeah, it reminds me of when I was first learning to play drums. I figured out one fill, and guess what fill I played at the end of every 4 bars? The same one, because I'm like, because it works. It's like, okay. Then you have to kind of realize, like you said, it's like this discipline of less is more. Taking it away, taking these awesome riffs, and like letting the track go back down to nothing and building it back up. So I really do appreciate that. And Jelle, definitely last but not least, what else did we maybe not cover here?
You're definitely giving me a hard time because everything has already been said. I do have a couple of things. When I was listening to the guitar, it was obviously that it was a MIDI guitar. But what really, well, I wouldn't say annoyed me, but what caught my ears is it was completely 100% quantized. And a normal person would never play every note 100% on the bar. I mean, there are musicians that can do it, but it sounds unnatural. We are not computers, so when you play a guitar, there are small changes in tempo, in notes on the grid or on the beat. And I think if you would play the parts in of the guitar and just normalize the quantization a little bit and give it a little bit of swing, then it would already improve the sound drastically, as far as you can improve a MIDI guitar over a real guitar, of course. For the rest, obviously it needs to be a little bit faster, 5 to 6 BPM. And at the very end, I hear that you have some claps in it. And to get the impression of it going faster, what you could do is, right now the clap is on every fourth of the note, like 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. What you can do is do it on every eighth note, like something like this, and you already give it the impression that it's going more faster, that you are being pulled into the song, basically. So those are my tips right now. I mean, everything's already been said, except that it could really use a cowbell, but that's something else.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm really glad you said that, because one of the other bigger notes I had other than the tempo was it felt a little stiff. It just kind of felt like dun, 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 dun. It was very square, very, like you said, right on the grid, very, very just precise, but no groove, right? I didn't feel the groove. I didn't feel the attitude, the swagger, a little bit of this kind of laid back, even though it's straight ahead rock, there can be a little bit of a laid back swagger kind of behind the beat feel to it. So this can be done in many different ways. Sometimes you can perform your guitars live and not quantize them at all. Other times you can actually you can quantize your stuff, but insert a little bit of, variations in the quantization. So it's not 100% on the grid, but it adds a little bit of that human element. So it is one of those tricky things. I mean, I'm a big fan of VST guitars because after years of plugging in a guitar and having to make sure it's tuned every single take, and oh God, I didn't play it right, I got to do it again. All of the hours and hours of doing that. And then one day it was like, oh, Odin guitar and guitar rig. I could put these two things on my computer, and with my keyboard, I could make almost anything, and it sounded great. It sounded believable. And I'm a producer. I'm a drummer and a guitar player. And after I hit play on a lot of my tracks, I'm like, you know what? I don't know if I could really tell. I mean, I know that I produced it on my computer, but this is sounding believable enough that I don't think I ever want to go back to picking up a guitar and tuning it and doing this. I know there's going to be times and places you really want to do the live recording, but oh my gosh, if I can do it with just my keyboard, I can change things, I can make differences. I can, up until the very end of my track, if I need to change a chord because it's not working, I can literally just, whoops, go up on my MIDI and change it. So it just gives you so many options. But Jelle is right. It's like you've got to be spending some extra time and making sure that it doesn't sound like a artificially intelligent robot came up with that riff and performed it. And it's like, it's precise. This is a rock tune. It's like, that's not how we enjoy and enjoy music. So a lot of it will come down to your drums, your drum beat, your drum groove. Definitely with your guitar performance, that can be done. But let's not get too hooked on quantizing, because that's what you can definitely end up with is basically something that sounds a little bit too robotic. But I think overall this is a licensable direction. So definitely keep going in this direction. Masaki, I think you have a really, really great, as we said before, you have the compositional skills, you have the ideas, you have the talent there. It's just now about harnessing it and making some small adjustments to get there. So I don't know, maybe I'm being a little bit arrogant here, but I think this is the best feedback that's ever been given on sync licensing tracks, probably in the history of mankind. Big claim, I know, but if you guys can tell me something better, put it in the chat box, email me, let me know if you guys are finding something better than this in terms of the quality that you guys are getting from this kind of feedback and this kind of interaction, okay? And this is what you guys can get with Pro Feedback. So I'm going to go ahead and change out our view here a little bit. Hold on one second. There I am. I'm back on screen. Actually, that was a rude thing. Thank you, pros, for being with us today. Let's all give them a round of applause and a thank you for their time. I'm going to go ahead and swap them off the screen now, and I'm just going to give you guys a last minute little just pitch on why you might want to join us here in Pro Feedback, and why you certainly don't have a lot of time to make this decision if you want to save $15 a month, get your 30% discount. There was a couple of questions about that. Yes, you keep that discount for as long as you keep your subscription. So as long as you want to stay with us, you continuously pay this discounted rate. And then once these 100 spots are gone, which will be in a day or two, that rate is over, and you will go back up to the regular rate, which is actually $49.99 a month, which is still a steal, considering the fact that you can get up to 3 reviews every single month from professionals that have been doing this for 5, 10, sometimes even 15 years. Okay, so definitely take a look at the description link, or the box, the link in the description box down below this video if you want to check it out, or just go to profeedback.me. It'll take you right to this website where you can learn more about it. You can check out what kind of stuff we do, how it's going to work, how do you get your feedback. You can check out more about these pros that you just got to see, and you can learn about our process. You can learn about the you can see some samples, actually further samples of these private reviews that we do on the platform. So not just the ones you just saw, but you can actually see when we do our one-on-ones with the members, you can actually see what that looks like. Check out our testimonials. See that these are real people, real producers with real careers that are seeing massive, significant changes in their productivity moving forward into this business. And just like everything else I do, guys, there's always a 30-day money-back guarantee. I don't want your money. I don't want your membership if you're not finding this to be one of the most powerful things you've ever done, and you're seeing significant improvements in your approach to production music. So come and give us a shot. It's a monthly commitment. It's month to month. You can cancel anytime you like. There's no long annual commitment, nothing like that. And you have nothing to risk, nothing to lose at all. So if you don't like it, it's not working for you, email me. I'll get you a refund. It's no big deal. So definitely go ahead and join us. We got a few spots that were taken during the course of basically this morning and this broadcast. So we definitely have our spots that are going to be drifting and going away very, very quickly. So certainly do not miss out on this, and don't wait. Just come and give us a shot. That's what I'm going to encourage you guys to do. Just come and give us a shot. Get one track reviewed. Sign up for the pro that you want to, and evaluate that review and say, all right, is this going to help me make better improvements in my tracks? And doing this regularly, is this going to get me closer to doing this full time? The answer for a lot of you guys is going to be 100% yes. I can't tell you how many months, maybe even years, this service right here will save you. Okay. If I could go back to my early career when I was just literally, well, I like this music, so I'll put this out to a library and hopefully it works. I can't tell you guys how many tracks in my early couple of years are still sitting collecting dust. Even though they got accepted by a library, they have never gotten a placement, or they've gotten very few. A lot of them have gotten none. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that I didn't have a consistent way to get feedback on my music. I was just kind of throwing it out there. The library was saying yes, which I was very appreciative of. It's really cool to have your music out there, but it's not good enough just to have your music in a library. It's better to have music in a library that is licensable, right? That is useful, that is relevant for this current industry and this current world that we're in the current the business of sync licensing, TV, film, streaming, video games, promos, commercials, trailers, movies, all that good stuff, right? So if I could have had something like this to basically just do a monthly checkup, like, am I getting better? Am I going the right direction? Did I miss something? Is my new mixing approach really getting me closer to something that's louder and more licensable, or am I really falling off a cliff here? If I could have had something like that, I can tell you for sure it would have shaved off years of my long-term sort of dragging my feet into this business and slowly getting those royalties built up. Because to have these kind of answers immediately, like within like a couple of days, I can't tell you guys, like, that is going to make a huge difference. And I'm already seeing it make a huge difference for a lot of our members that are already joined us. So we want you to be here. We are excited to have you with us. We are ready. The pros have been getting some extra sleep the last couple of days because I know many of you guys are going to be joining and sending a lot of music their way in this first week of March. So we're ready for you. We want you to be a part of this. If you guys have any last minute questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat here. I'll be happy to answer those. Yes, some are asking, are actually libraries? Yes, many of these are library owners. The ones that you just met are library owners. We actually also have Mike, who's a library owner, and they are able to accept and reach out to you guys if they feel that your music is acceptable to them. But that's not on you to pitch to them. So I want to make sure you guys are all very clear on that. Please respect that boundary. That if they want to license your music, they have every right to reach out to you privately and ask for it. That you've submitted to them, and they think, hey, is this available? Maybe I can use this. So just know that they can absolutely do that. But that's not for us to pitch to them. Okay. Okay, so if you are a member, there is on the platform there is a little question mark actually on the upper left hand corner, of the platform, where you actually can learn how to submit your track for review. Just so you know, though, in our featured post section on the Pro Feedback platform, every single one of our pros, if you click on any of their profiles, you can actually read all about them, check out their music, their welcome video, all that good stuff. At the bottom of each one of them, there's going to be a submission link. That's where you're going to submit your track for them, okay? So that's how you guys do that, for those of you that are already members and want to submit a track. So If you guys have further questions, you're concerned, you want to sign up, or you got something I didn't cover or whatever, email me, jesse@syncmymusic.com, or just comment below. But again, do not snooze on this. Once these 100 spots are gone, they are gone forever. And I don't think I'll be offering any discounts anytime in the future. So this is pretty much a one-time deal. So definitely take advantage of this before it is over. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks to the pros to help us out. And I hope you guys learned something from our reviews. You guys have a fantastic day.